The film opens with a quiet autumn landscape. A lone man walks down an empty road past fields and farms, an army duffel bag slung over his shoulder. No one else around, no cars, just him and the road disappearing into the fog. His name is John Rambo. He is a Vietnam veteran, a former Special Forces soldier, and a recipient of the Medal of Honor, the highest military award in the United States. A man the Army spent years training to survive any situation and defeat any opponent. He was taught everything: how to navigate a jungle without a map, how to evade pursuit, how to find food and water from nothing, how to stay alive in places where anyone else would have died long ago. But all of that was over there, on the other side of the world, in a foreign country, in a foreign war. Here, he is just a lonely man in a worn military jacket, drifting down an American highway with no destination and no plan. He is on his way to visit the last surviving member of his unit, a man named Delmar Berry. That is the only thread still connecting him to the past, to people who knew him by name rather than by appearance. Rambo does not know what is waiting for him up ahead. He just keeps walking.
Can you tell me this, where Delmar Berry lives?
He ain't here.
He finds the right house on the edge of a small farm and walks up to some people hanging laundry outside. A conversation starts between Rambo and an older woman. He shares an old photograph. It shows him and Delmar together with their army unit, and explains that Delmar himself gave him this address. But the look in the woman's eyes says everything before she even opens her mouth. She has had to tell this story before. Delmar passed away several months ago. Cancer. He was not killed by an enemy on the battlefield or by a stray bullet on a mission. He was killed by Agent Orange, the chemical defoliant the American military sprayed across the Vietnamese jungle to strip away cover from the enemy. The same jungle where Delmar fought. The same jungle where Rambo fought. Delmar was the last man from his unit. One by one, they were all gone. Some during the war, some after. And now the last one too. Rambo hands the photograph back. He thanks the woman, tells her he is sorry, and leaves. He is alone again. Truly alone this time. Rambo turns around and keeps moving. Where to, he does not even know himself. Just forward, because there is nowhere else to go. The road brings him to a small town called Hope, Washington, which greets him with a sign that reads, "Welcome to Hope." A beautiful name for a place where everything is about to go wrong. An ordinary American small town, quiet, neat, with tidy houses, flags on the porches, and a diner on the main street. Rambo walks into town with one single goal: to get something to eat. He is hungry and worn out from the long road. That is probably the most basic human need there is. And that is the exact moment Sheriff Will Teasel notices him. The local keeper of order, a man who likes his town to run exactly the way he has decided it should. Teasel pulls up in his cruiser, stops next to Rambo, and stares at him for a few seconds without a word. One look at the long hair, the worn military jacket, the beat-up duffel bag, and his mind is already made up. This man does not belong here. Teasel offers Rambo a ride to wherever he needs to go. Rambo gets in, and on the way there is a deeply unpleasant conversation where the sheriff feels comfortable both insulting and talking down to him. In the end, Teasel drives him all the way through town and drops him off on the other side, at the road sign, beyond the city limits. Short and clear. Move along. And people like you are not welcome here. And as a bonus, some unsolicited advice. Take a bath, get a haircut, and change your clothes.
May see some ID. All right, you're under arrest. You hear me? Now put your hands on the car.
Rambo quietly gets out of the car. He looks at the sign. He looks at the road stretching ahead. The sheriff turns around and drives away. And that is the moment Rambo does the one thing that changes absolutely everything. He turns around too, and walks back toward town, not out of stubbornness and not looking for trouble. He simply has the same right to walk down this road as any other person. This is his country. He fought for it. He has not committed any crime. Teasel spots him in the rearview mirror and swings back around, stops next to him again. This time, the conversation is short. Rambo is under arrest for vagrancy and carrying a concealed weapon, specifically the large knife Teasel found during the search. Just like that, in an instant, for walking down a road and not looking the way the local sheriff wants him to look. Rambo does not resist. Every inch of his body makes it clear he is not happy about what is happening. Teasel brings Rambo to the station, and that is where the chain of events that drives the entire rest of this film begins. The deputies are tasked with getting the detainee cleaned up before his court appearance. A haircut, a shave, a wash, standard procedure. Except right from the start, these men are not behaving like officers doing their job. They are behaving like people who have been handed power over someone helpless and see absolutely no reason not to abuse it. They shove him, hit him, mock him. After hosing him down with cold water, one of the officers wraps a baton around his neck from behind to hold him in place for a shave. Then, one of them slowly raises a razor to Rambo's face, moving slowly, eyes locked on his, smirking. And at that moment, something inside Rambo breaks. Not just fear, not just anger, something deeper. Images flash before his eyes that he has spent years trying to keep locked away. A dark cell in Vietnam, the faces of men who held a blade over him, exactly like this, moving slowly, watching his eyes. Rambo is not in an American police station anymore. He is back there, in enemy hands. He is no longer a detainee. He is a prisoner again. And he does the only thing he knows how to do in that situation. He breaks free. Within seconds, he throws off every officer in the room, fights his way down the corridor, grabs his confiscated knife on the way out, and bursts through the front door onto the street. He spots a motorcyclist, knocks him clean off the bike like it is something he has done 100 times before, takes the motorcycle, and rides hard into the mountains.
All right, don't shoot. All right, come on. There's people down there. All right, get help. I'll go after them.
Teasel sprints out of the station and takes off after John in his cruiser. A high-speed chase tears through the streets. John pulls ahead and makes it past the city limits, but Teasel refuses to give up and stays on his tail even as the terrain gets rough. John manages to force the sheriff into a dead end and has a clear chance to break away. Instead of taking it, Teasel calls for backup and pushes after him again. His stubbornness ends with the cruiser flipping and smashing against the rocky bank of a mountain river. But John loses control of the bike too. The motorcycle goes over the edge of a slope. From here, he is on foot. After climbing up the mountain, he hits the cold and has to find something to keep himself warm. He digs through some debris and uses his knife to fashion a makeshift jacket out of what he finds.
Mitch, get Orville on the radio. Tell him to get out here with his damn dogs right away. Or tell him to bring the Dobermans. It's gonna rain. We'll need dogs that can hunt on sight. Right.
And this is where something begins that none of the people chasing him could have possibly anticipated. Rambo is not panicking and running blindly. He switches into something else entirely. Like a switch being flipped inside him, transforming him from an ordinary man into exactly what years of training and combat experience made him. He does not just disappear into the forest, he becomes part of it. Soon the base of the mountain fills up with police vehicles. Teasel orders dogs and a helicopter because there is no way he is letting John walk away from this. Now, he is a fugitive. John keeps climbing, but the cops are already back with the dogs, closing in fast on a fresh trail. Unfortunately, the path is cut off by a cliff edge, and the police are so close he can see them. There is no way back, so he starts climbing down the rock face. And that is exactly when the helicopter appears, with Deputy Galt riding on board with a rifle. His orders are to track John and nothing else, but spotting a chance for payback after what happened earlier, he decides to open fire. Not warning shots, but shots aimed to kill. At an unarmed man they themselves cornered, even the pilot objects, but Galt threatens to kill him if he keeps making noise. Blinded by the need for revenge, Galt ignores the radio calls from Teasel and keeps firing, shot after shot. And just as John is squarely in the crosshairs, understanding that the next bullet has his name on it, he does something remarkable and completely fearless. He lets go of the rock and drops straight down. Fortunately, the fall is broken by the tree branches, though the impact leaves him seriously injured. There is no time to rest. He has to take cover behind a tree as Galt keeps firing. Rambo stays low, watching, and then, in one motion, he picks up a rock and throws it at the side of the helicopter, aimed right at the pilot. The pilot flinches, loses his grip for just a second, the helicopter lurches, and Galt, sitting on the open side, loses his balance and falls. He is killed. That is the first death in this film. And here's the thing that matters. Rambo did not start this escalation. He never fired the first shot. Every single act of violence on his part was a response to violence done to him first. The helicopter pulls away. John walks over to Galt. He is already dead. He takes his jacket, his radio, and his rifle, then disappears fast because underneath the sound of the rushing mountain river, he can already hear the dogs. And that means only one thing. Danger is close. The officers arrive to find a sight that shakes every one of them. Galt, lying on the rocks. John quietly stitches up the wound he got from the fall. Then from above, they spot him as he steps out into a clearing with his hands raised. He does not want to hurt anyone else. He does not want anyone else getting caught in this, but he holds firm on the fact that he did nothing wrong to deserve being hunted like this. Teasel orders him to surrender, but when John starts slowly backing away, the officers open fire. One bullet grazes his head. Teasel gets on the radio to the officer at the base of the mountain, asking for the helicopter back, and gets news that stops everyone cold. John's background check came through. Congressional Medal of Honor, Silver Star, Green Beret, a genuine war hero. The deputies start second-guessing themselves the moment they find out who they are actually dealing with. Green Berets are no joke. Mitch even suggests calling in the state police. But Teasel's pride will not let him back down now. He grabs Mitch and points at Galt's body. Galt was his close friend, and Green Beret or not, Teasel is going to make John pay, with them or without them.
It's gonna storm. That's all we need now. Will, come on, let's get out of here before it gets too dark.
Teasel does not stop. Galt's death only sharpens his determination. This is no longer just a vagrant arrest. This is a matter of personal honor. He pulls together more people, local police, armed volunteers, dog handlers. The forest is being closed off from every direction. But Rambo is not just retreating and hiding. He is preparing for war, using only what he finds around him: branches, rope, rocks, sharpened wood. He builds a network of traps, sharpened stakes in pits hidden under leaves, rope snares positioned at leg height, trip lines strung between trees that send weighted objects crashing down when triggered. Every one of these is a guerrilla warfare technique he has long since drilled into muscle memory. One by one, the pursuers hit the traps. Someone twists an ankle, someone catches a knife in the leg, someone drops into a pit, but no one dies. Rambo is deliberately building traps that injure, not kill. He does not want to kill these people. The only thing he wants is for them to leave him alone. At a certain point, he silently moves behind Teasel himself, presses the knife to his throat, and speaks quietly, almost without emotion. If you do not call your people off right now, I will give you a war you will not believe. Then he removes the knife and dissolves back into the darkness. Teasel sinks down against a tree and starts to cry, most likely from the feeling of complete helplessness wrapped around pure fear.
Why don't you go home? It's my problem now.
Your problem. Listen, Dave. Don't give me any of your horse shit about jurisdiction in this one, you understand?
The scene of the events turns into a small city of its own. Emergency services, reporters, and state police, led by Captain Dave. On top of everything else, one of the reporters is already narrating over footage that John killed a sheriff's deputy and attempted to take out the others. A clear attempt to paint him as the villain in front of the public before any facts are established. Lester, One of the men who was there tells Teasel what he heard, that Galt and the others abused John badly. Teasel denies it. He insists his people never stepped out of line, even though he himself is not entirely sure that is true. And at that exact moment, a stranger walks into the tent. His name is Samuel Troutman, Rambo's former commanding officer, the man who led John for 3 years in Vietnam, the person who personally oversaw his training and knows him better than anyone alive. Sam did not come here to save John. He came here to save them. Teasel still tries to hold on to whatever scraps of dignity he has left and refuses the colonel's help. So Troutman tells him plainly who he is dealing with. "I came here to rescue you from him," he says. "You are lucky John left you breathing." John Rambo is an expert in guerrilla warfare, a flawless marksman, trained to survive in the wild, to endure pain and the elements, all in service of one thing, staying alive no matter what the conditions. He tells Teasel straight, no softening. You do not understand what you are dealing with. This is not just a fugitive. This is one of the finest survival and combat specialists the American military has ever produced. He can do things most people think are not possible. And notice, he still has not deliberately killed anyone, not one person. If he wanted people dead, none of you would be standing here. Troutman asks them to let John walk away, and then they can arrest him quietly somewhere else, without all of this. Teasel just shakes his head. This has gone too far. Too many people are watching. Backing down now means admitting defeat in front of the whole town. But Troutman's words clearly get to him, and that is why he finally agrees to work with the colonel.
Are you telling me that 200 men against your boy is a no-win situation for us?
You send that many, don't forget one thing.
What?
A good supply of body bags.
John finally has a chance to rest, eat, and warm himself by a fire. The mountains are still bitterly cold, but it does not last. A state police officer gets on the radio and puts out a call, asking him to respond. John just listens, saying nothing. Then the colonel takes the radio himself and speaks in the language only the two of them would understand. He says calmly, without any pressure, "It is me, John. This has already gone too far. Surrender, and I will do everything in my power to make this right," Rambo responds. And this is the first moment in the entire film where he speaks not in short bursts and not as a threat, but genuinely as one person talking to another. He says he did not start this, that he just wanted to pass through town, that they provoked him, that they drew first blood. And that is exactly where the film gets its name. The colonel hears in his voice not anger and not fear. He hears exhaustion, the deep, accumulated exhaustion of a man his country used and then threw away, like a tool that has served its purpose. Rambo cuts the radio. He is not taking the colonel's offer. He is not surrendering because as far as he is concerned, he has done nothing wrong.
Well, you did some pushing of your own, John.
They drew first blood, not me.
Look, Johnny. Let me come in and get you the hell out of there.
At dawn, a large National Guard unit moves out in John's direction. They triangulated his position during the radio transmission, but Rambo had already outsmarted them, slipping away from his temporary shelter long before they got close and heading in the opposite direction along the mountain riverbed. On his way, he runs into a lone hunter, but disarms him quickly when he realizes it is just a young kid. Without hesitation, the kid runs to his father, who fires a shot into the air to signal his location and immediately gives away exactly where John is. The National Guard soldiers move straight toward the shot and spot John, opening up a chaotic barrage of rifle fire after him. Left with no choice, John retreats back into the railroad tunnel to take cover. There is no way out. Cliffs on the left, open ground under fire on the right, and only the dark tunnel straight ahead. Rambo pulls back inside. Meanwhile, Teasel orders the National Guard to surround the tunnel and hold fire, but the soldiers on the ground seem to hear nothing and keep shooting. John returns fire, forcing them down, shaking them badly, but his ammunition runs out. The soldiers who cornered him are so rattled by the sheer force of his will that one by one they flatly refuse to follow direct orders to storm the tunnel. A young, visibly nervous guardsman fires a grenade launcher on the captain's command straight into the tunnel. The explosion rolls through the mountains. Smoke, dust, silence. Everyone is convinced it is over this time. Dave, Teasel, and Samuel arrive shortly after to find the National Guard soldiers already celebrating. Teasel is furious, but the captain insists John was shooting at them and left no other option. Teasel orders the body recovered and puts the captain and his men on the task.
Thought you said he was the best you ever trained.
However he may have ended up, there was a time when he was very special.
Special my ass. He was just another drifter that broke the law.
But Rambo is alive. The blast tore through the main tunnel while he had already moved into a side passage. Now he is deep underground, in complete, absolute darkness, in a maze of old mine workings with no light, no airflow, no reference points. But he finds a way to get some light regardless. Anyone else would have panicked and died down here. Meanwhile, above ground, Teasel is mocking him, calling him nothing. Just a vagrant after all. But Troutman sees nothing worth celebrating. The newspaper headlines are going to talk about John Rambo's service and his medals, not about being taken down by a small-town sheriff on a vagrancy charge. Rambo does not waste time. He manages to build a torch and keeps moving through the tunnel, one hand trailing along the cold stone wall. He navigates by the faint movement of air. Where air moves, there is an exit. Eventually, John finds a ventilation shaft that lets him climb out to the surface. Outside, he spots the same National Guard soldiers still combing through the woods, but John slips past them with ease, fully aware they are still looking for him. Not far off, he spots a convoy of military trucks rolling by and makes a bold call. He jumps onto the last truck in the column and forces the driver to keep going. They exchange a few words, and John shoves the driver out of the cab, but the man quickly runs into a patrol car and reports that Rambo is alive. The news hits the station in seconds, and their quiet, relieved afternoon collapses back into chaos. A cruiser catches up fast with the truck John commandeered. The officers inside open fire and try to run him off the road. John waits for his moment, then rams the cruiser and sends it smashing into a parked car on the shoulder. The officers scramble to set up a roadblock, but it makes no difference. He blasts straight through, dodging the gunfire.
Highway 26. Hey, Will, it's Rambo. He's still around.
What happens next is no longer a chase and no longer just survival. This is war. On American soil, in an American town. Rambo drives into Hope and starts taking it apart. First the gas station, which he drives straight into with the truck, and then lights up, grabbing a machine gun from the truck on his way out. Teasel, confused and shaken, grabs a loudspeaker and asks the townspeople to clear the streets for their own safety. He gets ready for the confrontation himself, takes a rifle, and climbs up to the roof of the police station to wait. Then, the transformer substation goes. The entire town goes dark. John moves through the streets like a shadow, fast, precise, no wasted motion. Not a single stray shot toward any person. Only infrastructure, only property. Using the darkness as cover, John slips into the gun store, sets it on fire to create a diversion, and uses that distraction to pinpoint Teasel's position on the roof of the police station. From that moment, Rambo opens up on the station, hammering it with rounds, destroying everything inside. Teasel shifts position, crouching near the skylight with his rifle aimed at the entrance, but John moves in carefully. He already knows someone is waiting. The sheriff spots movement and fires, but misses. Rambo fires back, connecting cleanly, and the hit is solid enough that Teasel falls through the skylight and lands inside the station. The sheriff is badly wounded and cannot fight back. Rambo stands over him just a few inches away. He could kill him right now, and nobody would get there in time to stop it. But he does not. He just looks at the man who started all of this and does not pull the trigger.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
At that exact moment, Colonel Troutman walks in. He enters the building alone. No weapon, no backup, no vest. He just walks in and finds Rambo standing in the middle of the wrecked room, coiled tight, armed, covered in blood. The colonel tries to talk him down, telling him the station is surrounded by hundreds of officers. And this is the most important scene in the entire film. Rambo does not turn on him. He does not run. He breaks right there in front of you. Everything he has been carrying inside for years comes pouring out all at once. He is screaming and crying at the same time. And that is probably the most powerful moment in the whole film, because up until now, Rambo has barely spoken and never once shown anything like this. He talks about the war, not the heroics, not the victories, but what came after. They were the best. They did everything they were told. And then they came home. And it turned out nobody was waiting for them, and nobody needed them. They were treated like human garbage. Rambo went from town to town trying to find work, any work, the most basic jobs. He got turned away everywhere. People looked at him like a problem. He had a label, Vietnam veteran, broken, unpredictable, a liability. The country sent them to fight, used every last thing they had, and then acted like it did not know them. And here he is, a man who can do anything you could ever ask of a soldier, who cannot walk through a small town to get something to eat. The colonel listens in silence. He is hearing this out loud for the first time, and at the same time, he understands that this is not just Rambo's story.
I want to help me say, please, I want to go home. I want to go home. He keeps calling my name. I want to go home, Johnny. I want to drive my Chevy. I said, well, what? I can't find your fucking legs.
Colonel Troutman steps toward Rambo, lowers himself down beside him, and puts his arms around him. He just holds him, silently, tightly, the way you hold someone who has no one else left to do it. Rambo does not pull away. Outside, they are already waiting. Police, National Guard, reporters with cameras rolling. Handcuffs go on, and Rambo is walked out of the building. Sheriff Teasel is on a stretcher next to an ambulance. He watches as Rambo is led past. Their eyes meet for just a fraction of a second. And in that look, there is no hatred on either side, only exhaustion. Everything goes quiet again, as if none of it ever happened. The film does not end with a victory or a defeat. It ends with a question that never gets answered. What happens to the people a country uses and throws away? What does a war do to a man who never asked for it? And who is responsible? A small-town sheriff, the country, the system, or no one at all?